4,000 nautical miles, exceeding physical boundaries in extreme weather conditions, on the northernmost and hardest high seas regatta in the Atlantic Ocean, the HSH Nordbank Blue Race. 7,200 kilometers from the east coast of America to the River Elbe at Cuxhaven. The starting point for the race, the town of Newport in the state of Rhode Island. This is the mecca of American sailing. Everything has something to do with water sports. Even the streets have sailing names, such as the America's Cup Street. Not surprising then that this is the home of the legendary New York Yacht Club, the regatta's initiator. It's now 4 years since this North Atlantic race last took to the water. The competitors' yachts are once again back in the harbour of Newport Shipyard. On the charter yacht, the Boatman, everything is ready for the start. The only missing thing is the fruit. In the belly of the yacht, the spaces, or what is left by the Spartan network of sail storage, navigation table, galley and bunks, are planned down to the last centimetre.
Okay. Dann haben wir 3 Dosen, 450 Gramm.
Under the eyes of Jens Oberbossel and Thorsten Uphues, the provision masters, the amounts and necessary storage spaces are meticulously counted and carefully packed, since at sea, a meal becomes a decisive factor. We have several tanks with 600 litres of fresh water, and we went shopping yesterday at the supermarket and bought all kinds of bottles and jars, which we've stored in all the different sections we can get at easily. So when we're underway, we use as little effort as possible, because it takes a lot of energy, so we start here and we just simply eat through to the end.
Von hinten uns nach vorne im Prinzip durchfressen, ne, durch unsere Pakete.
Rice, pasta, astronaut food and pre-cooked sauces are the culinary outlook. There's no room for more. The 17-metre Passage, as the Boatman is called for this race, is a living space for 12 crew members. The 57-foot aluminium maxi yacht was built for the Whitbread race of 1989. However, it didn't make the start. It is now to cause a stir among the 24 competitors of the HSH Nordbank Blue Race. Tomorrow will show whether ship and crew are up to the North Atlantic adventure.
Das ist jetzt hier keine Tour über die Alster. Wir müssen extrem auf unsere Sicherheit.
Well, it's not a short tour across the Hamburg-Ulster. We'll have to take good care of ourselves. I can only say that each person is responsible for him or herself. I'm ultimately responsible. If something happens, I shall have to answer a lot of questions. But basically, everyone has to look after themselves. Well, there's a second aspect as well. If one person doesn't look out for himself, he endangers all the others.
Weil, wenn einer schlecht auf sich selbst aufpasst, dann gefährdet hier alle Mann. Ihr müsst euch ein bisschen zusammenreißen. No? Es ist völlig in Ordnung, wenn einer mal schlecht draufkommt, und das wird.
You have to put it all together. It's okay if somebody's in a bad mood. It'll happen to everybody. If he or she then says, leave me alone. If we really want to sail this thing, then man overboard is the end. Behind the railing is death. Saying goodbye is relief, but it's about to start, and at the same time sadness that loved ones are being left behind on land. How long the families stay apart depends on the course of the race. A photo to remember them by doesn't hurt. Just like the warm-up exercises at the coffee grinder. Shortly before midday, the Boatman casts off.
Here we go.
But first, the course for the Parade of Honour through Newport Harbour. A chance for the crew of the Boatman to cast their last look at the competition. There are the guys from the classic yacht Peter von Zeestermuher, for example, the chieftain from Ireland, or the female crew of the KPMG. There are favourites, but they haven't won yet. And such a short time before the start of the race, the same conditions apply to everybody. There's a light breeze, but the crew of the Boatman has sailed to a promising position to the upwind course towards the start line. Everybody is waiting for the starting shot.
Go!
And then it happens. After the first turn, the crank handle of the grinder breaks, a terrible blow at the most unfavourable moment. From being just in front, the boatman has now to let the other yachts pass by. A hard setback in the heated opening phase.
Wir sind gut dabei.
We're doing fine. There was a bit of excitement earlier because something broke in the first maneuver, but we'll improvise and get back to normal. We're in the middle of the fleet now, and that's what our tactic was. Stay with the rest and hit them later. Somewhat more awkward than the crank handle, the sheets have to be reeled in. For now, the crew will have to make do without the aid of the grinder. The first section of the race is the hunt to Point Alpha, a virtual point the regatta committee have set in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
Und dieser Punkt ist davon abhängig, wie die momentane Eissituation aussieht. Denn
This point depends on what the current ice situation looks like, because in summer, the cold Labrador current comes from up here. It doesn't bring icebergs with it, but small ice floes, and they can be carried down here. So, we'll head for this point first. That's 1,000 nautical miles, about 1,800 kilometers.
Das sind in etwa 1000 Seemeilen, 1800 Kilometer.
And that's where the really long stretch begins. To the north of England, there's a small island near Shetland, Fair Isle. That's our next marker point. And then we have only 450 miles through the North Sea to Cuxhaven.
Haben wir nur noch 400 oder 450 Meilen grob durch die Nordsee bis nach Cuxhaven.
However, this rescuing coastline is still thousands of nautical miles away. And since this will not be a perfect dream, the crew, like the first evening, is certain that the ocean will not remain so good-natured. The morning's exercise, changing the sail. The large spinnaker has to be changed. A welcome task for the crew, for apart from the captain, there are no professional sailors on board. The sails are set, stowed, trimmed and struck below. The manoeuvres are practiced until each hand movement is perfect, even at the helm. As a reward, moonfish swim by and a few dolphins turn up. Pure romantic sailing. Below deck, the only woman on board, Julia M. from Kiel. She's writing about her experiences in an online diary for the Financial Times Deutschland.
Besonders toll war einfach die.
Particularly great was simply the departing mood, this really uplifting feeling of being here, the long wait, then crowned by the good start. The best things are things like the calm after breakfast and the moonfish.
Sachen wie Ruhe nach dem Frühstück und dann ein Mondfisch.
Experiences which this man might have missed. He is recovering after his night watch. The comfort of his narrow bunk is secondary.
Das lässt sich nicht ändern. Und außerdem gewöhnt man sich.
It can't be changed. You quickly get used to having only 4 things. The unpleasant thing is actually getting dressed and undressed when you have to wrap up in about 8 pieces of clothing every few hours. This is a real pain.
The daily routine is oriented around the watch system and according to the Swedish rhythm. This means 2 watches per day of 6 hours and 3 watches at night of 4 hours.
Die Nachtwachen fangen 8 Uhr abends an.
The night watches start at 8 in the evening and go until 12, then the next until 4 and then until 8. The one from 4 to 8 is called the dog's watch because it's the coldest and darkest of all. The watches before and after are lighter so that you can tell the watch from 12 to 4